Now, judging by my appearance, you might think that I'm fluent in Chinese. Well, your assumption would be wrong. But I don't blame you. My parents, who are immigrants from China, share the same assumption. There have been times where I've done something wrong. My parents would sit me down at the dinner table and start a lengthy lecture in Chinese. However, they overlook one crucial detail. I couldn't understand what they were saying. And unfortunately, they discovered my little secret when they realized that many of their so-called good talks had little to no effect on me. So they enacted one of anime's top 10 betrayals and sent me to Chinese school. A heart-pounding, nerve-wracking, soul-sucking experience, which many people even compare to a form of mental torture. For most of my life, Chinese school was this roadblock, this obstacle, this major O between me and my happiness. And I often begged my parents every single Saturday to allow me to skip going to Chinese school, but unfortunately, to no avail. I tried coming in with the most elaborate excuses ever, saying that my guinea pig ate my homework and that my fortune cookie said if I went, bad things would happen. But my parents, they saw through my tricks and still forced me to go. Now imagine this. We're in our Chinese class. Our teacher, Mrs. L, methodically progresses through the class, textbook in hand, prompting each of us to read a short portion of the text we've been currently studying. Usually during group reading sessions, I could just mouth words. But by myself, I couldn't hide behind the Chinese prodigies. I needed a plan. I started thinking maybe I could ask the teacher to go to the bathroom. Maybe I could use the same excuses I told my parents. But in the end, I decided to resort to my mathematical mindset, calculating the number of people before me and the lines they may be asked to read to make an educated guess about the portion I might be asked to read. Using this information, I discreetly took out my phone and used my two trusty tools, Google Translate and ChatGPT, to translate all of the words in my section I didn't know. And I was sent. 4 more students go, 3 more students go, everything was going according to plan. But that was until the person before me, Ryan, a Chinese immigrant, fluently spread through his portion of the text, saying, the teacher commending, saying, "Wonderful job, Ryan. Could you also read this paragraph here?" Huh? I yelled to myself, though it will be my life, without the time to reach out my phone and recheck a whole bunch of notes. I was cooked. And before I knew it, Mrs. L walked up to my desk saying, "David, could you read this sentence over here?" I didn't know what to say. I was stumbling through each and every word, needing to ask Mrs. L how to pronounce the word almost every single second. It was so embarrassing. I could barely make more than a squeak when I spoke. That day, after Chinese school ended, I walked into the hallway with a sense of embarrassment and defeat. But that's where I saw my grade 8 Chinese teacher, Mrs. Z. I told her all about my situation. She invited me into her class, and we went through that paragraph, line by line, word for word, until I was able to recite it and understand its meaning. Well, that was 2 years ago. Let's see if I still remember it. 自从爸爸给我买了新电脑，容量更大，速度更快，我非常喜欢这个新电脑。After I was able to recite it, Mrs. Z smiled, pulled out a box of chocolates from underneath her desk, saying, "I bought these for my class today. You've done a great job. You deserve one too." They were delicious. From that day on, I frequently visited Mrs. Z to sit with her, seek her assistance with my Chinese studies, and most importantly, poach some of the lovely treats she had bought for her class. And as time passed, I got a little bit better at Chinese and a little bit better at Chinese. Mrs. Z invited me to do a short presentation to her class about my experience with Chinese school. Nerves at first, standing in front of the entire class, much like I am doing right now. I slowly grew confident as I told them all the ChatGPTing, all the Google translating, all the small but impactful work I put into Chinese school. The look of understanding and relief on their faces made me realize that maybe, just maybe, Chinese school wasn't as bad as I once thought. It became less of a roadblock between me and my happiness, and more like a stepping stone, a way for me to connect with myself, my family, and even my culture. Let's talk a little bit about that. Last summer, my grandparents immigrated to Canada to live with us. And for many years, I felt a profound disconnect between me and my heritage, and my profound disappointment that I wasn't able to hold a proper conversation with them. But as time passed, I got a little bit better at Chinese. I can finally hold a semi-decent conversation. I know, very impressive. I even learned a few very cool Chinese board games. One has Chinese chess, a weird version of Go, and by far my favorite, Mahjong. Recently, one of my friends gave me a little gift, Mahjong, in a little box like this, and the tiles are about this big. And I immediately remembered the many afternoons I spent with my grandpa, learning the intensive game, which is Mahjong, about what is the individual tiles and basic gameplay. So now I had an idea. At school, I gathered a few of my friends, made out a table, set up the little stacks, and as we were playing, I explained to them the Chinese terminology and how to play, much like how my grandpa did many, many months ago. I told them what the individual tiles were, from the pancakes to the noodles to the 10,000s, and even taught them these 3 important Mahjong phrases. The first one, I want you guys to repeat this back, okay? First one is chur. Chur, this means to eat. This is when you have a 1, 2, 3, you have 3 in a row, you want 2 in a row, you want to steal that 3rd in a row from the main pot. So, chur. Next one, pung. Pung. That's what I'm talking about. Pung. This is when you bump somebody, much like chur. When you have a 1, 2, 3, you have a 3, 3, 3. So you just take that 3rd piece to make your 3 of a kind. And finally, hoo. Hoo. This is when you win. You scream out, hoo, when you win, signifying that everyone else lost and they are cooked. Now you can walk home today knowing that you learned a bit more about a 5,000-year-old Chinese board game. But unfortunately, even though I taught you these 3 Mahjong phrases, I admit it, I'm not that good at Chinese. I frequently mess up on tones, I can barely pronounce certain words, and I can't read or write. For many years, I felt like an outsider to my own heritage. But recently, I found something unexpected, a new way in. My grandpa is 84 years old and paints these beautiful traditional Chinese paintings, much like the one I'm wearing right now, but this one's from Temu, so it's much worse. Where each stroke he paints tells a story that doesn't need any words. By watching my grandpa, I learned that culture isn't spoken, it's shared, it's expressed, and it's felt. All things considered, Mandarin is a really hard language. If you were to search it up on Google, I'm pretty certain it will show that Chinese is the hardest language to learn. But culture is everywhere and everything. It's through food, it's through music, it's through art, it's through family. And maybe, just maybe, we stop striving for perfection and start striving for connection. Now, to end off my speech, I would like to ask you all one question. Do you have any significant obstacles in your life right now? Whether that be a very bad science mark from today's exam review day, whether that be you can't roll your R's, or your Chinese sounds like Google Translate on 1% battery. Trust me, I know the feeling. Now, drawing from my experience, I give you this advice. Don't give up. Seek help and persist. With enough determination, you might just be able to turn your significant obstacle into an enriching opportunity. From one big O to another. Thank you.